Okay. Got 3 hours of sleep, and then my cat prevented me from falling asleep any more than I wanted to, so I guess we're doing this now.
This is only another turning point.
That's a
Yes, we've still got a long road ahead of us.
very
Good
overdramatic
news,
ship.
though. The captain told me that the...
I'll finally get to see Roxy again.
Given the scope of the magic in this world, I feel like it's kind of weird how hard it seems for people to travel. Because it's been like, what, the better part of a decade since he's seen Roxy in person? I don't know, that just feels like neither of them feel like characters who would be fine just waiting until fate crossed their paths. And I just feel like there should be something in the magic system that makes travel a little bit faster or easier.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because back in the day, you were constantly trying to act grown up, and you would have been ecstatic if I ever said you were mature.
Was I really? I guess you're right. I was like that for a long time. I wanted to prove I wasn't a child and that I should be taken seriously. Never mind that I didn't have any...
Show, don't tell. The time period they're talking about was near the start of the show. And earlier on, but the start of the show would count as part of that. And it's not like they couldn't have had that part last longer. I mean, I think since Rudy hit double digits, I think Rudy hit double digits before episode 8. And he's aged, what, like 3 years since then? But, much like Made in Abyss, they want to skip ahead to the more interesting part and not do the work early on. Because they don't trust people to be interested in the characters they write. Or be willing to sit around for the long-term game. She received very little development early on. There were traces of this, but it would not be what I would consider character defining. If Paul were to treat her like a child on regular occasion, like, that'd be a good way to show what they're talking about here.
But these
What the
days, I feel
fuck?
like my reputation has gotten out of
What-
hand.
What is the point of
apart from
shots
your
like
face.
that? Do they ever really address the types of creatures that live in this world? Don't know why it took me this long to think of that, but I mean, it's literally just a horse. Is this what horses are in this world, or is this a subspecies, or is this like a demi-human? Are demi-humans a thing in this world? Like ReZero kind of makes that stuff clear within the first 10 minutes. I still don't know what this guy would be classified as, or how many are like him. Yeah, they haven't really done a good job of making clear what races are what and how many exist and if there's any different cultures or nations. Because outside of pretty much just the United States, almost every country on Earth is largely comprised of one group of people. Trying to think about the races we've seen in the show so far, there need to be a lot of nations for that to be true in this context. But I feel like they haven't mentioned that many. And we haven't seen a map still, so I'm overthinking this.
But that ain't a story worth sharing. You tell me, though. As long as...
There are so many other body parts you could show shaking. You do not need to do an upskirt for that. You could literally just show that from a side angle instead. And go to her back and show her entire body trembling, or go to her hands and show them shaking. Like,
But you should really go try and make up with them before it's too late. You've only got one family, you know?
that was fast. How fucking close was she? It took them like 2 years to get from here back to the mainland.
Guess it's changed a little. Bigger, more people, maybe a little more greenery. But
Where?
still...
Yeah, because people spend their entire life just standing and
Please stop.
smiling
I
at
can't
each other.
understand what you're saying to me.
Ah, okay. Did we know that they communicated through telepathy? I thought they spoke a different language. It's kind of weird that you need telepathy to interpret what other telepaths are saying to you. Like, to send your own thoughts out, sure, but it's kind of weird that you need it to interpret their thoughts as well. It's kind of an interesting visualization of that. It's a cool sound, too. I can't tell if it's the shading or coloring, but her suitcase and staff just look so much like 3D animation. I think it's the shading. It's never gonna not distract me. God, that would cause so much paranoia.
I just wanted to stop by.
The fact that
when can we expect to see you again?
she can hear when they're doing it,
I don't
but
know.
not anything about what
Honestly,
they're
I might
saying.
not come back at all.
That fucking sucks. It's the most I've ever sympathized with the character in this show so far. That's incredibly difficult.
Maybe I'll get to stop by sometime in the next 50 years.
Do you
Okay, fair
promise?
run.
Okay.
How old did they say they lived to again? I feel like it was like 200 or something, but that seems way too young still.
I'm sorry.
Hey, it's okay.
I know we're having a moment here, but I can't help but feel distracted by the fact that they made her mom into a mommy type, and they made her dad look younger than she does. Like, pick a lane on the aging system.
Don't say anything truly important with their mouths. But I could tell my parents were heartbroken, and I knew it was because of me. Without telepathy, I would always be an outcast.
I wonder if that's just gonna be a thing, or if there's an actual deeper reason for it.
Words and language have never been what mattered most to any of us.
Feels like her dad's kind of third wheeled this whole episode.
Good morning.
Did she just sleep on the floor of the living room? Do they not have furniture?
Ruijerd is a member of the Superb tribe.
He's a what now?
Yes, we started dealing with him not too long after you left the village, actually. We'd always been afraid of the Superb, but he turned out to be quite... Roxy?
Oh dear.
Racism.
And feel free to bring cute little Rudius with you next time.
Anime parents always shipping their kids.
Absolutely not. He'll do no such thing.
Obviously, with the full context of the show, I support the relationship of Roxy and Rudius more than any other possible romantic pairing, but Roxy is in her 40s, if I remember correctly. And they think Rudius is like 14. Okay. Before anyone comes at me with the whole, it is part of the time period or setting type of deal, even in fucking House of the Dragon, you know, the show that is actually very clearly based on a specific time period and is very accurate in comparison to this, it still makes it clear how fucking weird and gross and disgusting it is for an older person to get with a child, even though it's part of their society. And that's in a setting that the entire point is to be like a realistic medieval Europe. This is not that. It does not have to have that as part of the setting. There is no reason for it to have that as part of the setting at all. The writer can just choose to not have it be a part of the setting. It changes nothing. Whatever.
Please don't! I think I'll break!
Roxy overreacts, but
That's going to keep happening. You should get used to it.
I mean, or you should come to accept how Roxy is going to respond to it. That's what I was about to say, pretty much, but Roxy definitely goes a bit overboard, to say the least. I mean, not that much in anime terms, considering that blowing up a building is not a serious thing when it's done for a joke in anime. But, like, you can't blame her for not getting used to it when you're not used to her doing that in response and expect something to change.
I like when people get to watch.
Has that woman had a single line of dialogue that wasn't sexually charged? Or about her sex life? Or about Roxy's sex life? That's her entire fucking characterization. Alright. Pretty boring episode overall. So I don't know if I've mentioned in any of my other reactions to this show or any other, but I tend to, especially for long shows or shows that I'm bored in with certain episodes, I check IMDb's episode ratings to generally see what's considered the good ones. And Turning Point 2, 3 episodes from now, is the second best episode of the show, according to those rankings. So, it'll be interesting. Turning Point 1, it's weird. Turning Point 1 definitely was a turning point for where the show had been up until that point, but it's like a 20-degree turn, I feel. Despite what changed with Paul and Eris and Rudy getting thrown out into the other continent and whatever, like, still doesn't really feel like that much is all too different. I mean, it went from just training and dialogue to adventuring and dialogue with training. So, forgive me if it's not, like, the most crazy stuff. And unlike Freerun, the journey is not really that interesting. 5 episodes remain. Let's see if we can get them all out at once. Oh, back here.
Every time you bring me here, I go back to my old self. I swear I've turned over a new leaf. I take responsibility now.
Does he actually think he's changed?
All right, fine. I have a specific request. Help me find my family.
Whatever do you mean? I thought your family was in a whole other world.
You know exactly what I mean. Zenith, Lilia, and Aisha, okay? And if possible,
I would like for you to trust me from now on. What do you say?
What, and obey your every command like a little yes-man marionette?
Oh, no.
How long is it
I
going
won't
to
ask
take
you
to
go
get
that
answers
far.
on this
I
guy?
just mean it's gonna get exhausting if
You know how depressing it is to be back in this body?
This god legitimately reads like me writing a story and then putting literally just me and my personality into a god that then tells the characters how to progress. Like, that is what this feels like. And if this show wasn't supposed to be taken seriously, I'd like that, because that's entertaining. Currently, it just feels like a plot device. And I don't even know if they're planning to develop this at any point, frankly. It's hard not to draw comparisons to Full Metal Brotherhood, where the development for the gate and all that stuff was just, not done.
Every time you drag me here, I feel like my growth's been erased. But I guess...
Okay. If he never accepts this form, he's never grown as a character. And if the show paints his growth in a positive light while he still doesn't accept this form, that's not positive growth.
where you will stumble upon this scene. The young lady being detained is none other than your sister, Aisha Greyrat.
Hang on, what'd you just say?
Rescue her, but under no circumstances should you tell her your real name. Use an alias. Ask about details of her situation. And then, send a letter to your acquaintance at the Royal Palace of Chiron.
Wait, who do
I feel like this stuff is so specific. It's so specific that it reads like a character from an alternate timeline interfering in this one. Because that's so specific. And I feel like these things just happening naturally would make more sense. But if the writer literally needs to force a god to correct them, like, what would happen if this didn't go as this guy says? Like, how does that play out then? Or is this just determinism? Was this always going to happen? This part of the story so far feels incredibly just plot device. Like, we go here when it's time to move the plot along, and that's all that this is. And they haven't even really addressed the concept of it being a mystery yet. So I don't know if they're going to try developing it, which is kind of the problem. A lot of times with stories, I'll give writers the benefit of the doubt and try and wait until something is developed, but one, I don't have faith in this writer, and two, it doesn't feel like they're setting up a development for this. I really hate that he genuinely thinks he's improved as a person.
Did that freak lead me to this eye just to show me the future whenever the mood strikes?
Yes.
I don't get it.
That's what the writer's doing. We still don't know if there's a reason for the reincarnation, like if someone caused it or if it was part of a plan or something. I feel like it's not connected to the god, though. I feel like he's a separate entity from whatever might have reincarnated him. If there was even an entity that did reincarnate him, it might have just been a thing that happened. I don't think they've ever addressed it since episode 1, so... I think that's a good difference with ReZero. I think ReZero does a really good job of making you ask those types of questions, even like right from the start. Like, there's a lot of things that just happen with no explanation, and I mean, unlike reincarnation, like, he's summoned. Something had to be the catalyst for that. With reincarnation, that's a thing that might just happen for a story like this, without any explanation. With summoning, that's like an active thing that someone had to have done. And then on top of that, Subaru got all these weird things happening to him involving the witch, which built a mystery around her and him and his connection to her. And that kind of carries us through the early stages of the show, and after that, it just balloons into 11 million different mysteries all at once. I don't feel like this show has presented any of these things as being a mystery, partly because Rudius hasn't spent any time considering them. He's just been so focused on forgetting his old life that we don't even address it at all, really. Which makes it a little unclear if I'm supposed to be asking these types of questions. Because, like, to my knowledge, for Slimy Sakai, like, he just got reincarnated. I don't know if they're ever going to explain the system that reincarnated him. I don't know if that's, like, an entity that made that choice to reincarnate him, or if he just happened to be reincarnated and that system was what did it. A lot of times when an isekai happens, it's either incredibly apparent what caused it, like with No Game No Life or Konosuba. Like, they don't even try to hide it. They just, okay, the character either died or got summoned, here's how that happened, they're in the new world. Or it's like ReZero, where it's not clear at all, and part of this show is the mystery. There's not a ton of other ones that I can think of that are actually like that. Overlord is the only other one that really comes to mind, and what happened at the end of Yggdrasil, along with finding other people from the real world, is a major plot point in Overlord. It's something that Ainz is almost always thinking about. It's his main goal. Rudius just doesn't care at all. So with shows like ReZero and Overlord, I'm fully aware that the show was expecting me to think about why this might have happened, or how it might have happened, or whatever. With something like this, it just kind of does it and then moves on. So I feel like it's not supposed to be a mystery. But the inclusion of that god figure complicates it, because I feel like Rudius commenting that he feels like he's being used makes it seem very apparent that that god clearly has some kind of long-term goal that it needs Rudius for. Because if it really is just guiding Rudius for the sake of guiding Rudius, that's incredibly stupid from a plot perspective. But if it's doing something for its own goal, I have no idea what that would be. And I think part of that is the show just not really setting up any long-term plot yet. I think after Turning Point, they showed a bunch of other characters, I think like Demon Lords or something, and we've seen the Lolly one, who's basically naked, since then, but the rest of them I don't think have been referenced since. We haven't gotten any, like, even debates or theorizing about what caused the Mana disaster. Like, if I'm supposed to be asking questions, this show is doing a horrible job of prompting me to do so. Because it's just focusing on the adventure. Oh my god, I've been talking for 10 fucking minutes.
But if they're here in the city, Roxy should have found them ages ago. Right?
Oh, this is where your master lives now, isn't it? Hey, so what's with the gloomy expression?
I could comment on how Roxy's
I
not
heard
here,
from a source that some members of my
but
family
obviously
may
that's
have
not.
been taken captive somewhere in this kingdom.
Sorry, I just got distracted thinking about what sending a letter to Roxy would do, given that she's not here. Because, like, obviously we know that she's not here, even though Rudius hasn't considered that. So she wouldn't be the one to receive any letter that he sends there, so and just kind of mulling that over is distracting me from the actual show. Can't remember if the conditions of what she was doing changed since we last saw them, or since I can last remember seeing them, because she was teaching a prince, I think. So he'd be sending a letter to the capital for someone who isn't there. Let's just see where it goes.
I'm surprised. Hope she gets back to me soon. Who is that? Richard? No.
Just
He's
turn
great at
around.
taking people. I'd never notice him. Does someone in Chiron have a grudge against me?
Just turn around
I
and look
literally
at them.
just got here.
Has he really not realized this is the alley?
This alley is...
How'd he do that? Hey, stop it! You'll help me out, won't you?
Unless there was an open letter that he signed as Rudius, why would she care so much about it? Because it made it seem like he left it with like a post office or whatever. Why would she care about it?
My mother has been imprisoned in the castle, so would you please help me send this letter to my father to inform him?
I see. That's what that letter was. Between that, her manners, and her vocabulary, she's one clever girl.
Father to inform him?
I see. That's what that letter was.
Huh? The way this was shot and written made it seem like he left his letter to Roxy with her. Why was she following him? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Do you have anybody else you could maybe count on to help?
Nobody.
What about a nice young lady with blue hair who your mother might know? Or maybe a cool older brother somewhere?
What's he trying to do right now? I was gonna say it seems like he's dodging it, which wouldn't make any fucking sense given that this is where the man god guided him to go and what he was supposed to do. And I don't see how sending Paul that letter would be a problem in any regard. I am confusion.
Do have a brother.
I'm just gonna...
But I can't count on him.
Excuse me? Did I not just rescue you in the coolest way possible?
And you've been gone for like 5
Yes,
years.
why not?
It was panties! My brother was completely devoted to a pair of women's underwear before he was even 5 years old! And a small pair, too! By my calculations, they must have belonged to a girl of about 14.
This kid's gonna be way too smart for her own good.
I don't know, it sounds like that could be
Also
one
known
thing.
as way too smart to not treat you like a normal fucking person. I'm confused as hell and we're talking about fucking panties. Did all my pausing lead me to miss something?
Mother wants to cover it up to protect him, but I am positive. My older brother's definitely... a pervert! A pervert! A pervert!
Best fucking character in the show!
Okay, then.
A name like that has to have an incredible story behind it. I would love to hear it.
Don't you have important business with your letter? I think this wasn't supposed to be confusing, so I'm gonna go back and look at what happened with his letter and then come back to this, because... yeah, I am confusion. Also, where are Rouge and Eris?
Thank God they didn't ask who my source
Okay,
was.
he's writing the
Let's hope
letter.
it stays that way.
Okay, he wrote the
I'd
letter.
like to send this to the royal palace, please.
Okay, he left it with, like, a post office or something. Hang on a second. I think that's her in the background next to the statue. The colors look right. Yeah, okay, that was her. Why did she follow him? Is it just because he mentioned writing a letter to the capital? Or the palace? Why the fuck did she follow him?
My apologies if this sounds ungrateful after such a daring rescue, but may I make a selfish request?
Go ahead.
My mother has been imprisoned in the castle, so would you please help me send this letter to my father to inform him?
I see.
Okay, I feel like this is the first time something in the show has just straight up not made sense from a writing perspective. Like, everything else I've had criticisms with the writing and the characters and the writer and a bunch of other stuff, but this just doesn't make any sense. He writes the letter to Roxy, which is going to be sent to the palace. He asks someone to send it to the palace. He walks out of the building he put that at. She's waiting outside the building for some reason. I feel like she could have just sent the letter. Maybe she didn't know where Paul was. But she wants to get the letter to Paul about someone who's in the palace. Why would she ask? Either she heard him say what he said in there and asked him because he mentioned the palace, which wouldn't make any sense because he was sending a letter into the palace, which is where her mom is imprisoned. Or she just wanted an adventurer's help delivering a letter. In which case, why would she go for the 14-year-old? Or the 12-year-old, whatever he is? Like, there are so many adults. This is literally a capital city. There's so many people she could have asked. Including just people in that post office. I don't know if I'm just missing something, or if they're going to explain it later, or what. Because she also trusted him immediately in helping to deal with the guards. I really don't follow. We'll just put that aside and move on for now, I guess. Maybe it'll be addressed later, but I don't know, I feel like I doubt it.
Because she's kind of developed a misguided impression about her big brother. So if we're spending time together, I want to fix that by showing her my good side.
I think every side of you is your good side, but whatever.
What?
What is her fucking character? The more of this I watch, the more I feel like Eris is probably one of the shallowest female leads I've seen in an anime. Literally, Sword Art Online is better. Even with characters like Rem or Raftalia, I feel like what the protagonist did for them helps explain a lot of their devotion to him, especially combined with the amount of trauma that they have. Eris is not really that traumatized as a person. She got kidnapped once, and it was dealt with pretty quickly. And Rudius didn't even really help that much with it, and he actively made the situation worse by having it happen in the first place. And then he works with her through this area and adventures with her when I feel like she's probably doing most of the combat. And even if she wasn't, I don't think him doing more would paint him in a positive light in her eyes. I think she'd hate that because she wants to do the combat. He also sexually assaults her on at least 2 occasions. And now she can't stop praising him and says every part of him is great, and she is such shallow waifu bait. Honestly, I feel like Raftalia and Rem aren't even this egregious with it. And they have very little personality beyond liking the protagonist. I think the problem here is that Eris has a personality, and it's one that wouldn't like the protagonist. Least of all this much. Yeah, I mean, like, part of how Rem coped with her trauma was viewing herself as worthless and putting her sister on a pedestal. Subaru basically just changed who she put on the pedestal. So her personality supports her obsessive affection for him. Raphtalia, I mean, like, she's just pure dairy. So her having that kind of affection for Naofumi makes complete sense for her character. Eris is supposed to be the fucking tsundere. And she starts out by literally fucking abusing Rudius. And being notoriously violent, even by the own admission of her family. And now she's saying fucking lines like this. Part of the issue is that Rudius has never done anything worthy of love. Another difference is that Naofumi and Subaru both did things for Raphtalia and Rem that were worthy, that, like, made them worthy of being loved more. As Rem puts it, Subaru puts her time back in motion and unfreezes her heart, and Naofumi gets Raphtalia out of abusive slavery, I guess, not slavery, really, and then treats her like a fucking human being for the first time in her life. Rudius has done nothing favorable for Eris. He's trained her a bit, though usually he's a sparring partner, not her trainer, since she's better with a sword than he is. He's helped her with their adventure. He's kind of led the party. Like, that entire kidnapping thing, that was his fault. The fact that his plan was to make her like him more by faking a kidnapping, which then ended up being a real kidnapping, and then he helped her get out of it, and even then he couldn't help her all the way. They had to rely on her, the warrior demi-human. She should hate him more because of that. Like, he got her in so much danger and made her go through a lot of shit with the intent of making her like him. And if she doesn't feel strongly against him because of the fact that she doesn't know that, that's an even bigger fucking problem. Especially because at this point, I don't think they would ever address that. What was that sound?
God, what a bunch of hotheads.
You're talking to Eris, dude. That's one of her 2 defining traits.
Pardon me.
In one fucking day, this 6-year-old feels completely comfortable sleeping next to this dude. I feel like I missed like a full episode of time between these two. The women in this show genuinely act like dating sim characters. Even the ones that aren't love interests. Like, you do one nice thing and they trust you for the rest of fucking time. Hell, there are dating sims where it's harder to gain their favor than it is for him to gain their favor in this. And, I mean, it's not really even for him. Like, even with Paul, like, it kind of ended up being fine with him being a fucking cheater. In the end, that didn't really change any dynamics. This show is really bad at writing women. Now I'm going to start having a mental debate with myself for the entire rest of the show. Which, is this worse at writing women, or is My Hero worse at writing women? My Hero tends to make them useless. This makes them just such waifu bait. And shallow.
Lady Roxy has summoned you.
What's going on?
Okay, so they're about to get... So he's about to get jailed, right?
I haven't seen my master in a while, so I'm kind of nervous.
Because she ain't here.
You're gonna formally introduce me to her, right?
Yeah, of course I am.
Yeah,
I'll
you
make
gotta...
it happen once everything else is settled.
You gotta introduce the harem to each other.
Oh, please, you know me. First sign of trouble, I'll fly right back.
You know that SAO blooper? Play it.
So anyway, it's great to meet another girl VR MMO player IRL. Welcome to the harem. I second that. Have you been tested for STDs yet?
She boasts about you quite often, as a matter of fact. She said she felt she wasn't qualified to teach someone of your caliber.
Well, that's definitely an exaggeration.
What's happening?
This way, please.
You're the 2 guys from yesterday, right?
Excuse me. May I take your staff and bags?
Oh.
This fucking dumbass. He doesn't even fucking think about it when he's handing over the item that he uses for combat right after he acknowledges the 2 guards that he fought. What a fucking dumbass. Just use the Gandalf excuse. It's just a walking stick, man. Right. I was gonna pause it, but I was gonna wait a bit longer. But since I've paused it anyway. So they know his name is Rudius. Was his last name on that letter too? Because if it was, and they actually do have the maid imprisoned here, I don't know. I feel like even if she didn't have that last name, that'd be pretty hard for them not to know.
So this is Rudius.
You're kidding me. Is this portly little pipsqueak her...
Yeah, okay. They did know.
What is this?
The lack of symmetry in that's bothering me. How long is this part of the story gonna take?
And when she does, that'll be the end of her as a woman. She'll live as my sex slave till the end of her days. I'll be sure to rape her the very first time right before your eyes. Then I'll pull out, lop off your head, and go back for round 2. I can't wait to see you both weeping in despair.
That's great.
Oh, I can't wait to see my Roxy again. I hope she gets here soon. This is gonna be so much fun.
What a moron.
You incompetent boobs still haven't found Aisha yet?
The guards reported.
After what just happened, you have the stones to call him the moron. Oh my god. It's really hard for me to take him seriously when he makes such idiotic plays. Rudius has generally made relatively smart decisions when it came to actual danger scenarios in the plot. Like, interpersonal relations, like, that's a separate thing. But, like, with this stuff, he's usually been pretty on top of it. And even not knowing that Roxy wasn't here. Seeing the guards you assaulted, and then being asked to hand in your weapon... Who just does that without thinking about it? Especially when afterwards they hear a man's voice instead of Roxy's. And then see their, like... Does she count as a stepmom? Tied up on the ground. Like, I feel like that's the point where you start casting without even waiting to hear more. Because, like, that's pretty damning, I feel. Also, I find it really funny that Sword Art Online is mocked for its sexual assault stuff. When, honestly, I find everything that was said within these last 3 minutes so much more egregious, to the point that I almost find it humorous. If I find comments about raping someone humorous, you're fucking doing something wrong. And that's kind of the difference with SAO. At no point did I ever find that stuff humorous.
Was this all supposed to happen? Or did I screw up somehow?
Have you ever screwed up before with what the man God told you to do? Also, this is the weirdest thing to happen. Obviously, it's the correct thing. Have you ever... For a guy who's supposed to be an otaku, he really doesn't understand how stories progress. Yeah, okay, the next episode... This episode's got a really weird title. Because his little sister was already born, the one who's the maid. And I didn't seem like the... I don't fucking know her name. The quasi-stepmom, it didn't look like she was pregnant again. And if she was... Jesus Christ.
Storm clouds? Or what?
Oh, shit. So, does Sylphie just live with them? It took 12 episodes since this happened for it to be mentioned or referenced in any substantial context. 12 episodes since this massive fucking event that changed the course of this world. Here's another reason why ReZero works where this doesn't. ReZero and this seem to want to try to focus more so on character. It's what a lot of the actual show is focused on. ReZero even more so. And with ReZero, for the first 2 seasons, there's never been any grand world-threatening thing that everyone saw and witnessed and knew about. The witch cult definitely is a world-threatening thing. However, they target specific areas and only go after those areas, and even the people in those areas don't know until the attack is happening. And once the attack happens, they're all fucking dead. I mean, the first 3 arcs are a serial killer who goes into one house and kills the people in there. The second one is an attack on the nearby village to Roswell's mansion, which, pretty small scale. The third one is Betelgeuse attacking the Roswell domain, the mansion, and the village, as well as the white whale who's kind of just chilling on a road and everyone's avoiding it because they know it's on that road. Something that's mentioned like 2 episodes before the white whale first actually appears, and then 5 or 6 before they fight it. And then season 2 is entirely focused on the sanctuary and the threats within, as well as an assassin that goes to the Roswell mansion. Again, only focusing on smaller areas. That allows for lots of focus on characters because they don't have to focus on the greater world and these devastating events. Now, from what I know, season 3 is going to change that, but it's also having seemingly every fucking character in the show involved. It's currently the 28th of September, so season 3 begins in, I think, 5 days. But it might be 4. I checked this yesterday, but like Vox Machina season 3 and ReZero season 3 start within like a day of each other, I think. But up until this point in ReZero, nothing has been massively world-threatening, at least in the timeline that's continued onward. Like Puck destroying the world is obviously one thing, but that's kind of a separate issue that Reinhard does come in to deal with, and I mean, Puck doesn't even get to do much in that anyway before he's destroyed. Meanwhile, in this, by episode 8, there is a massive world-altering event, and they just focus on the characters adventuring for the next 12 fucking episodes. Now, Turning Point 2, I think, is next episode, so I might be eating my words soon. However, the fact that it took this long to get here is nuts. It's often said that episode 18 is the end of ReZero's prologue, and to some degree I definitely agree with that. I do think the momentum of the show kind of shifts entirely going forward from that point. However, 13 to 18 is the show's turning point. And up until that point, things were still happening. They weren't the most interesting of things, especially in comparison to the rest of the show, but things were happening. The first 7 episodes of the show are training, and talking, and training. And then episode 8 shifts the story to be an adventure for the next 12 episodes. Now, compare this to Frieren. The first, I think, 4 episodes of that were largely the setup for the adventure. I think it's the end of episode 4 where she finds out about heaven and starts the adventure there. And after that, it switches to the adventure. But before that, it's a lot of talking, a lot of character moments, a lot of the slow stuff that just kind of goes through that part of the timeline, developing Fern and aging her up for like 15 years. And that's like half of the time it takes for this show to do that. But then the entire point of Frieren after that is the adventure. I would not be surprised if they do not find Himmel's ghost in the end, because of the fact that I'm pretty sure the adventure is the point. Frieren realizing that she actually does know Himmel, she just wasn't paying attention in the moment. Like, that seems like where the story is headed, in my opinion. That might not be where it's headed, but at the end of the day, I do feel like the adventure is what's important in that story. So, spending a few episodes building up the adventure and then going on that adventure, that's fine. even when that adventure lasts 24 episodes and barely made progress. They got into the northern area where the Demon King's castle resides, and they got stopped in a city and spent like 12 fucking episodes getting it the permission to continue onward from there. But it doesn't matter, because the characters in the adventure are the only thing that matter in that show. There's not a greater narrative. Like, the entire greater narrative already happened 80 years ago. With this show, the greater narrative is happening, and they're not giving any fucking attention to it. And that's so goddamn frustrating. Because I'm more interested in this than 90% of the characters here. I think most of this family is uninteresting. Rudius's mother and the maid have received very little development, honestly. They essentially serve the roles of what their characters are, and that's all they are in the story. Paul actually has some interesting stuff going on, and he is more of a character than either of them. And the children, I mean, like, they're like, what, 4 or 5? Do those even count as characters? Eris is something I've been bitching about constantly. Sylphie hasn't shown up for, I think, 13 episodes at this point. This was her first time in forever, and before that she was very devoid of character and was largely just a cutesy girl for the main character to save and befriend, and also allow the show to create haha, he thinks she's a boy jokes, which are the pinnacle of comedy. Roxy is by far the most interesting character outside of Paul and Rudius, and she hasn't been getting almost any focus for most of the show. And when she does get focus, it's so poorly done, because this entire episode focused on her, instead of just, having a chunk of the current episode focusing on her adventure. Instead, the way the show paces it is, it does like 3 episodes of Rudius, then does 1 episode of Roxy showing everything she was doing that time. That's not great pacing, in my opinion. It makes it feel like filler, even though it's not. Because it goes back and retells all those events. In that whole time period, but from a character who is no longer relevant to the events that happen in that time frame. Okay, 1 hour, 10 minutes. I've gotten less than 30 seconds into the second episode of this. Let's go. See? That's, like, deeply horrifying. Like, that can happen? Like, what are the casualties and the repercussions of the Mana disaster?
Are you awake? Aisha!
Like, if they can be teleported literally anywhere, like, what were the consequences of this? Why does no one in the world seem to care about it? I mean, even if Rudius, Ruijerd, and Eris were all just thinking about it aside until they could get back home, like, even if that was the case, no one in the rest of the world has addressed it at any fucking point. If that happened, that would be all anyone was talking about for the next year. No one has brought it up. A thing people complained about with the MCU right now is the Eternals, how the Celestial's hand came up from the ocean and then it was never referenced again in any other MCU media. That is a valid criticism in this. It is not in the MCU, because in that, stuff like that happens every fucking Tuesday. In this was a world-altering event that has never happened before, one would assume, and is how the fuck does no one care?
First, tell me how you know my Roxy.
Fucking Sugo from Sword Art Online was a more interesting character than this prince is. That's like... I genuinely don't know how many criticisms I could make that are worse than that.
I'm Rudius, a former jobless bum. Today, we're checking out a free apartment in Chiron. That's right, no deposit.
Is that why it's called Jobless Reincarnation? 'Cause he used to be jobless back on Earth? That's why it's called Jobless Reincarnation? Okay, sure. I always thought the implication was supposed to be that he was jobless in this world, so that title never made sense to me.
No fees,
okay.
No rent.
Do you know who the artist is?
I do not. I just saw it and I...
Oh, it's bothering me. Who's that actor? Oh, yeah. Wasn't Eris's grandfather or something, like, fucking executed? Wasn't that a thing that happened at some point? Really just not going to address that in the story at any point. I still can't believe that they managed to get Jamie Marchi and the character was still unlikable. That's impressive. Fucking Ian Sinclair.
Focus on this figurine a moment. Focus. At first glance, it appears to simply... It comes away in 2 pieces to reveal her innocent frame and not but her skivvies. But that's not all. You'll notice her left hand is now covering her chest. This is an object of most exquisite quality and nuance, reaching heights far beyond what...
I just need a moment to breathe. We can continue now.
When her nipples are hidden, it stands out, and her
Jesus
embarrassment stems
Christ.
from...
How long has this fucking gone on for? Also, like, at what point are they going to start selling that figure? Like, that's going to happen at some point, right? When they first brought this figure back in, I was trying to remember the context of when he got rid of it. But at this point, I don't fucking care anymore.
We need to make a request of you first.
You're kidding, right?
How did these three get
He'll be fine
here?
down there on his own, okay?
What led
Now
them
then,
here?
What is it that you want from us? Explain yourselves.
In a vie for more power.
They spent the show spent like 4 minutes talking about the sexiness of a figurine, but didn't explain how any of this happened. When did they come in contact with these people? Why did they come in contact with these people? Did they follow Rudius? Did someone come to their house? Did they try to follow Rudius? Did they look him out and found these guys? What's the context here?
What a calamity!
Ian Sinclair is the only reason this man is even slightly tolerable. So we released the guy as a distraction? Oh, no, it's actually just him. Okay. Okay, so this is all just a nonsensical clusterfuck then.
If you wish to save yourself, you can release Master Rudius.
How the fuck are those two just let in?
You can't be serious! We've enlisted the help of a superb warrior?
This entire episode is just fucking nonsense.
But I originally swore my loyalty to Prince Zanova. Therefore, I cannot defy His Highness's will.
Wait, that's not how it works, is it?
He's also the higher prince.
Keep me waiting?
What the fuck is this plotline?
Goodness me. Regular humans are such fragile creatures, aren't they?
The last 15 minutes of plot in this show are completely fucking nonsensical and actively hurt the world building and characters. None of this feels like a real story. This feels like a fucking joke. The clown music certainly didn't fucking help. But it's also just so many things back to back that are just so fucking nonsensical. And frankly just feels like a waste of time. Unless these guys are going to be like major players going forward somehow, this is an entirely fucking pointless sequence.
Wait, I'm totally lost.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
This is for you. Is this what I think it is?
Why the fuck is she still so chill about this? Also, she really doesn't give two shits about the son of her boss, who she hasn't seen in like 7 years or some shit. Like, how old was he when he got sent off to deal with Eris again? I don't think he was 5, but like, it's probably been like 5 years since he was sent off, right? And she just doesn't give a shit.
I know those meant a great deal to you, so I've kept them safe all these years.
Fucking why?
I'm pleased to finally have the occasion to return them.
Fucking why?
It's good to see that you haven't changed a bit, Master Rudius.
Why is that good? That should not be a positive thing. This fucking cat, I swear to God. I mean, granted, she fucking went behind her boss's back and had Paul cheat on his wife, so clearly her sense of morality is fucking non-existent.
Aisha hasn't said anything rude or disrespectful to you at all, has she?
Anything was deserved.
Not. She hasn't yet lived up to your more incredible qualities.
What?
She's comparatively dull.
What the fuck?
That's a little harsh, don't you think?
What is a good thing about this dude? Literally all he has going for him is fucking talent. That's literally it. Yet this bitch likes him more than her own fucking daughter. I get she helped raise him in part, but even still, one is a fucking pervert who has never done anything worthwhile or good in his life, and the other is literally her biological daughter. What a fucking horrible mother. And unlike Paul, that doesn't feel intentional.
My mother talks all the time about how I'm supposed to serve my half-brother someday in the future.
Oh goody, generational loyalty. You better not get back on the fucking desk, bitch! Okay, why is this episode called The Birth of My Little Sister? And if it's like the birth of her as a maid, she already fucking was one, clearly.
Only you.
I don't wanna! Save me from his perverted clutches as bravely as you did the other day! My mother says I'm gonna do a lot of growing, and one day I'll have a body that'll make boys wanna make babies!
Lilia, what the hell have you been teaching her?
Paul treats his son and wife like shit. And the show openly mocks him for it, and he's forced to develop and grow as a person over the course of the story. What's her name? Lilia? Fucking praises her master's son more than her own daughter. Forces her daughter into a position she doesn't want to work in. And talks about incredibly inappropriate stuff for a fucking 6-year-old. That is the difference in how this show writes a flawed woman versus a flawed man. And for the flawed woman, her telling a 6-year-old about, becoming sexually appealing is just a fucking one-off joke.
Children shouldn't talk about making babies.
He says, not even 3 years after trying to fuck Eris. And while he still has full intent to fuck her later on. She's still 15. That is still a child. She might only be 14, actually. Okay. Rudius is currently 12. So, yeah, Eris is 14. And he still plans to fuck her. The only reason he hasn't is because she wants to wait. But yes, children should not talk about sex, according to him. Yep, okay.
Having a memento from someone important to you can be reassuring. And maybe your brother felt the same way about his memento.
Yep, that's how you frame it to make yourself not look like a total piece of fucking shit. If this girl becomes part of his harem at literally any point, I'm dropping the show instantly. I don't like that this is being portrayed as a sweet moment so shortly after the dialogue that happened.
I get it. That makes more sense now.
God damn it. I don't know if I'm quieter than usual, or if I just sound more subdued than usual, but if I do, it's because of my recent Bloodborne recording. I don't know which order any of this shit's gonna go up in, but if the Bloodborne videos are up, you will know exactly which episode I'm talking about.
Die! Of course it's an insta-kill! Why wouldn't it be? Ah!
Gank Squad. Lots of screaming.
Hope you're not mad.
No, I'm not mad. Huh?
Wow, it's almost like you openly acknowledged that the girl is intelligent. Well, Rudius did, her mother fucking didn't. Okay. Yeah, if they never show up again, this episode was fucking useless.